Honorable Men Discord. Let's talk Corey Holcomb, Anton Daniels. Let's talk about it.
How you see yourself is how you perceived. I see a man strong, gifted, head strapping, never down on his knees, begging. Gotta make a way, even in my darkest hour. Say the odds against me was new. I would never cower.
As always, welcome back to another episode. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and definitely see me in the comment section if you have an opinion on this. So I'm gonna go straight to it. Internet is going crazy with this. Who won, who lost? Obviously, some people I believe are saying things based on bias as far as who won and who lost. I have no bias. I have no stake in this. I appreciate the content from both gentlemen. Although I watch more material from Anton Daniels because I just feel like his content is a little bit more thought-provoking. I think Corey Holcomb is more entertaining. Not to say he doesn't have some thought-provoking material, because he does. But I just feel as though between the two of them, Anton has more thought-provoking material. To each his own. You may disagree with me. That's fine. That's what this channel's for, is disagreement. Respectful disagreement. So here we go with this. Who won? No one won. Because if you're going to say someone won, I'm going to say they both won. In terms of traction to their channels, they both won. There was no loss there. Now, if we're going to say who lost, they both lost. They both lost because they're too grown for an argument to escalate to that level. Point blank, period. If you're a grown man, especially if you're above 40 and you're talking about who won, who lost, that's crazy to me. Because these are both grown men that are well off, making good money. And even if they're not well off, as grown men, they have to be able to figure out a better way to disagree and resolve any type of disagreement. And I stand on that 10 toes down. I stand on that 10 toes down. So let me just say a few things, all right? And I'm biased to no one. Although some of the stuff I have up here, I feel like there's more Anton Daniels stuff. But trust me when I tell you, I scrapped my original recording to do this over just so I could get into it, and it's not with bias for either one of them. I'm just pointing out some things that come to my mind. All right. As always, not scripted, although sometimes it should be, but it's not scripted, so just bear with me. So with that being said, one thing I want to say is there needs to be a form of decorum when it comes to whoever's hosting the show. In this case, 5150, Corey Holcomb show. He's hosting. Anton Daniels flew from Detroit to Cali to be part of the show, right? So there should be a mutual respect. Obviously, Anton Daniels is let it be known that he had a conversation prior to going there, as well as when he was on the show during the recording. He said that he studied Corey Holcomb. With all due respect to Corey Holcomb, as a host, it's also your job to vet and study your guests. It's in your best interest. If you don't do it, you should have one of your staff do it, so you know a little bit of background. It just makes it just shows respect for that guest. All right. And my talking points is just about if you are in this space of interviewing someone, not so much those that operate like I do, where I mainly just react to content that is trending online. If you decide to go into the space of interviewing someone, being part of an interview, both parties are responsible for researching one another. Can we all agree on that? So both Anton and Corey Holcomb should be investigating the person they're going to sit down with. Why? Because through investigating, you know whether or not it's worth your time. All right. So with that being said, Anton, if he felt prior to even flying out there that Corey Holcomb wasn't a worthy person to sit down with, he should have never sat down with him, period. And I stand on that 10 toes down. And I'm also speaking from how I would operate. If I vet someone, whether I disagree with them or not, if I don't feel like it's worth my time, I'm not sitting down with them. I'm not flying to sit down with them. Now, in Anton's defense, from watching some of his material, particularly this one, I believe he was out there to do more than one show. So I think No Jumper was a show that he was planning on doing as well. And whilst he was out there, knowing the type of business mindset he has, he was probably looking into other content creators that, since he's out there in Cali, he might have looked into other content creators in Cali that he could maybe sit down with, or maybe even do a video interview. Although he mentioned he's no longer looking to do video interviews. He wants to do face-to-face, which I could respect that, because at the end of the day, any man that's willing to sit down and face a man in his face, you got to give that person respect. So respect goes to him. Respect goes to Corey for having him there. He had the face-to-face. Corey initially, from what Anton is saying, Corey initially wanted to do it via the internet, Zoom or whatever have you, StreamYard. But Anton was the one that says, I'll go sit down. In any event, they came to an agreement. They both sat down face-to-face. So respect to both of them for doing that. Here's the takeaway that I get from this. I'm not here to talk about politics. I'm not here to talk about those that feel as though Anton's saying that he's Christian first, that was a bad thing. Every man is entitled to view things the way they view it. All right? We as men are supposed to know that not all men are going to agree with all our talking points, as they shouldn't. We all have our own vantage point. We all have our own experiences. We all have our own backgrounds. We all come from different places. You would think it's a given. It's not a given. Unfortunately for us, for brown men, black men, however you want to categorize it, foundational black Americans, Caribbean black men, however you want to break it down, because that's another thing that I was seeing a lot of comments coming in. Oh, Anton Daniels he's a tether. All types of ways to to categorize one another. I believe it's divisive. You could disagree with me. I stand on that 10 toes down. There's a lot of divisiveness going on. How about we just have two men that are in the content space having a discussion, whether they disagree or not, and hearing each other's sides out. And at the end of the day, we could disagree. We could end the episode. We disagree. We shake hands. It could have heated moments where we're arguing, but then we catch ourselves like grown men, tone it down, and continue along. But no, that's not what happened with this. Now, in Anton's defense, whether people agree with it or not, I agree with one of the things he said. He's like, no person can tell you what offended you. You're in charge of what offends you. And that goes for any individual. Corey's entitled to say he was offended by something that Anton said, and Anton's entitled to say he was offended by something Corey said. But no man could, or no woman can say that wasn't offensive. No, the person isn't in control of what they're offended by. Every human being is in control of what they're offended by. So no one could tell you that, oh, that wasn't offensive, or why are you taking it that way? If the person's vocalizing to your face, I was offended by that, then that means that person was offended. You are responsible for saying, well, I didn't mean it that way. I apologize for that. Let's move along. But it seems though, for some people, I'm not even going to go into community. For some people, that's too much of a task to take on, to admit that you didn't realize you offended the person and apologize. It's too much there's too much bravado, too much ego involved with some people, some men, unfortunately, and this is why it spilled over the way it spilled over. But I don't call this a win. I'm glad I scrapped the original recording that I did, because I don't see this as a win, because I feel like for Anton, for example, for someone who and I've watched all his videos, and honestly I may not even play this. It's really unnecessary for me to play this, because many of you probably have seen this Millionaire Morning Show take where he's sitting in the room talking. So I'll just move this right now. For Anton, for someone who, it's clear from his talking points, he believes he's very intelligent. And I'm not here to say whether he's not intelligent. Corey Holcomb, if you ask him, he believes he's intelligent. But let's stick with Anton right now. For someone who believes he's intelligent and has vetted Corey, I have this to say to Anton. You're also mature enough and intelligent enough to have stopped it in the tracks and just said, you know what, he could have said this to Corey, if you can't respect me, then I'm going to have to leave the show. But Anton has to admit he got in his emotions. So that's another thing too. You can't say Corey was in his emotions without saying Anton was in his emotions. And I'll tell you why. Because if Anton wasn't in his emotions, he wouldn't go back to the hotel room, speak on it for the Million Morning Show. Although I know he was speaking to his subscribers, so I can understand that to a degree. But then you don't do a part two, because there was a part two of him speaking on it again. And in this video I have here, he spoke over the phone to Angry Man, who's another creator. All right, that's emotional when you're over talking about something. Corey Holcomb was emotional as well. This is why they cancel each other out. There's no win in this. I don't care what anyone says. I stand on my opinion on it, which is my opinion, and you're everyone who's watching this is free to disagree. They're free to disagree, right? But it cancels each other's out, because I'm seeing emotional responses from the both of them. Corey was offended, and it was clear during the show after they did the handshake and everything, and someone from Corey's audience tried to ask Anton a question. Corey couldn't help himself. He had to interject, and he had to go back to the what bothered him, what offended him, even after the handshake. And he couldn't get past it. He couldn't push the show along. He couldn't get past it, right? Which is why it eventually re-escalated. Now, some may say, well, Anton didn't give him the full respect, even though he shook his hand. Maybe it seemed like it wasn't sincere. He brushed it off. But listen, it's your show, Corey. You're the host. You have to figure it out. Either you want to stop the show, or you want to continue. But to continue and just stretch out your gripe about what he said after you shook his hand. If you weren't ready to shake his hand, don't shake his hand right away. See, I have to just get this off my chest. You could have did it that way. There's so many ways of going around it as grown men. I don't give either one of them an excuse for this. I give not one of them an excuse for this. All right. So again, it's a win in terms for both of them. It's traction to their channels. But I call it a loss also, because Anton, as wise and as smart as he is, he's also opinionated. I don't agree with everything Anton says, and I don't agree with everything Corey says. Both of them at times say things that I value, but at times they also say things that I don't value, and that's going to be the case for any man you put in front of me. There's not a man on this earth that's going to stand, that's going to have a channel that I agree with wholeheartedly. Not a man. We're all flawed. We still have the capacity to learn more. And any man that stands on this YouTube as if he's all knowing and he has no flaws, I'm telling you right now, you're viewing a liar. And any man that gets on this YouTube and is not able to admit their flaws or admit that they don't know everything, I call them a liar as well. So I know Anton went on his channel and had a lengthy review of what took place on the 5150 show, but just understand this. No one is perfect. Now, there's some men that are out there that are more knowledgeable than others, but the problem, and I said this before in other episodes, the problem with some men that are well-read, have read a lot of books, well-studied, it gets to a point where sometimes they start to feel like they're all-knowing. And that's the damage sometimes of intelligence. That's the flaw of intelligence sometimes. And I'm not, by no means am I saying you shouldn't try to you shouldn't try to grow mentally. You shouldn't try to evolve. If anything, I encourage all men to try to evolve, but just be careful who you put up on a pedestal, period. Put no man on a pedestal. There's always good that you could take from every man, but there's also bad that you can learn from those men to stay away from. Every man that watches this episode, just know you yourself are in charge of your life. All the decisions you make in your personal life, you are in charge of that. It's up to you to watch different content, vet them out, and make decisions. But let me get into some of the stuff that I have queued up, and then I'm going to speak about it further.
Yeah, man.
And I'm going to tell you something else, too. And this is an exclusive just for you. I ain't going to say no names because I wouldn't. And this is the honest to God truth. Corey is scared of niggas in his own city. He told me that out of his own fucking mouth. I smelled pussy on that nigga before I even stepped foot in there.
Damn.
I'm gonna speak on this now. So, call a spade a spade. Again, this episode is about no one winning. Because if you're gonna say one won, the other one won us also. If you're gonna say one lost, the other one lost also, for the points that I mentioned earlier. This right here. So, as Antoine would believe he won, right? If you won, why is it necessary to call someone else and then tell them something, a private conversation? If I won, there's nothing to say. People that win in sports have a trophy that they hold up. Now, obviously, in this type of thing where it's a feud of opinions and some facts, in something like this, there's no trophy. There's no middleman. There's no referee. But clearly, you have fans, you have subscribers from both sides. You have the men themselves probably assuming that they won. How? Right? And Anton, this is my question to you. If you won, why the need to over-explain things? Why the need to disclose more stuff? Why are you adding more fuel to it? Because if I win, I'm walking away with the chip and I'm not even looking back. There's nothing to talk about. I know I won. I know I won because I flew over there. I saw you face to face and I said things to you to your face that most people would only say on StreamYard or on Zoom. So if Anton believes he won, then he should exemplify that in his actions. Right now, it doesn't seem like you won because you're saying more things that you don't need to say. And that's my personal opinion on it. I know some people will disagree, and that's fine.
Man.
Now, because I promised him I wouldn't say nothing, who he's scared of, the entire, this is what he said to me. Man, Anton, people, man, you should just chill out, bro. Because, man.
Here's another thing. If I vetted someone whose show I'm gonna go on, and I believe I'm more intelligent, I already told you guys in the beginning, I'm not even gonna go on that show. It's a waste of my time, respectfully, right? I'm not gonna go on that show, find myself in a position to humiliate that person, and I know that person's less of an opponent, so I'm gonna humiliate that person on their show, go back to my hotel room, humiliate them some more, call up other people from the same space, humiliate them some more. How is that a win? Because where I come from, the way I was raised from the older men that I respected, you get no points for beating up or beating down on people, whether literally or figuratively. You get no points from doing that to people that weren't at your caliber. Layman's terms, you get no points for being a bully. If you're a David at heart and you beat a Goliath, that's impressive. So if Anton has a intellectual sit down with someone of his capacity and he wins, that's respectable. And a win to me would be Anton sitting down with someone that he's vetted, that he knows is at his caliber, that could really challenge him, and he wins in a debate without profanity, because he's capable of doing that with his intelligence, and without talking about going out back somewhere to fight, because he's better than that. And both men in their grown age are better than that. I'm holding them both at the same at a level of respect. This is a lose for their age groups. It's a lose for their age groups.
I was like, oh, what he's selling wolf tickets on the internet is different from what he's doing.
Loss. Excuse me. That's a loss for their age groups. Got to be doing better at a better age. So now we're showing, what are we showing the world? We're showing the world that, all right, so in our 60s, in our 50s, well, Corey Holcomb's not in his 60s. I think he's in his 50s, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong on that. But the point I'm trying to make is, are we showing the world that the older we get, we're still doing things like when we were in high school and in junior high school? How can that possibly be a win? How could it possibly be a win? And if for the life of me, if people come in my comments and they talk about who won, who lost, and we're talking about two grown-ass men, that's a world I don't want to be a part of. That's an island I don't want to be part of. And if I amass the type of wealth that I need to get my own island, I will go to that island and just I don't want to be around this type of way of thinking, this type of ignorance. And everyone has the right to want to be a part of it. If this is logical to some of you that are watching this episode, by all means, then live your life. You have that right to. We all have the right to be under the same sun, same moon, breathe the same air. We have to coexist. That's just the way life is, whether you like it or not. We have to find ways to coexist. Or you could choose to crash out anytime someone disagrees with you, but that's not the life I'm trying to live. I don't know about anybody watching this, but the logical thing would be to find ways to coexist, because no matter who the opponent is, you're going to find yourself constantly fighting with different people. And that's one of the takeaways I've learned in this life. There's always going to be someone else to pop up to get on your nerves, that doesn't see things your way, may be slightly disrespectful, and you're going to have to find ways to engage them, because if you fully crash out, then you're going to be one of those people that's constantly in prison. Or you might find yourself with an opponent that's so willing to crash out, they take your life. Or vice versa. Maybe you lose it, you take somebody's life. And you might say, oh, you're going too far with this. Am I really? Have we not seen the history of this country, this world, this space? I mean, it was this space where two content creators bumped heads in Las Vegas. If you don't know that story, look that up. Look that story up. Again, I'm trying to really simplify this because this is my second time recording this, and the first one was too long, so I'm just trying to get to it. So let's finish this up, and I'm going to go into the next one that I have queued up.
That's not honest to God truth.
I think I know who you talking about too. Yeah, man.
And
Let's go into this. This was part 2 of Anton Daniels speaking on the event.
I could have been a bigger person, but I decided not to on that platform because I seen weakness in him, and I also wanted to expose him because he thinks he's a bully and he picks and chooses his targets, which I told him that also. So with him getting up and moving the chairs and all of that stuff, nobody was fearful of it. And it wasn't about being tough or anything like that. But it was like, okay, well, let's just see how far it goes. Let's see how far the rabbit hole goes. And it really amounted to just one of those type of dogs that like to bark on the porch, but then when they actually step out there, when you remove the fence from it, and again, he was shaking and all of that stuff. When you remove the fence from it, it amounted to practically nothing. Even so much so to the point to where I said, listen, we don't even have to keep talking about it. We can go out back if you tough, and we can figure it out back there. Because one thing that I'm not gonna do, because I know that YouTube don't like fighting. They will demonetize you, they will penalize you. It can go really, really bad. So
I'm going to stop it there, because I've seen comments from people that say, oh, Anton was bluffing. Do you not see? Listen, I need some of you all to just, regardless if you like his talking points, and again, I'm not being biased here, but I do pay attention to these things, certain things, because I'm in this space as a content creator with the channel. Anton Daniels has several channels. One of them has 1 million subscribers, and I think the other ones have subscribers in the range of 6 figures, right? Aside from that, this man has on his channel from time to time mentioned that he's also invested in real estate. With that being said, the man has multiple streams of income. He's doing well for himself. The man clearly has said several times that he's not willing to throw away his revenue for a fist fight on camera. He's well aware of the restrictions of YouTube. I don't know why some people look at that as an excuse. For the life of me, I don't know. And those people that look at that as an excuse, you're the type of people that's willing to throw everything away for a fist fight just to get it out your system, and then you worry about the repercussions after the fact, which is the dumbest thing that I could think of anyone doing. In anything that you do, you should always be thinking about the reaction and the outcome. Now, I know some people don't move like that. Some people just can't help it. They just react, and then it's like, oh, I'm locked up, or they react, or I'm in the hospital. They react, oh, I lost the custody of my kids, so on and so forth. There's people like that react like that, but you're going to learn one way or the other that it's best to think things through. And when he says that, I'm not looking at it as someone who's scared to duck a fight. First of all, I don't even think neither one of them should be considering a fight in the first place. You gentlemen had a conversation on the phone to have a sit down to have a meeting of words. All right, creating content. How does fight come into the equation? We know how it came into the equation, but my point is, I don't know why people feel like the end result was supposed to be the fight, the actual fist fight. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That should never be the end result. The end result should have been shaking hands, whether they agreed or not, and they move on to other talking points, other episodes. All right, I'm going to go into the next thing I have queued up.
Don't put no fucking shit on me, nigga.
I'm from Detroit.
Say
right
I'm
now.
fucking.
I'm right here, right now.
All right, that's what I'm saying.
Before I even watched this, I thought it was like even because everybody on the internet was like, nah, it was about even. Like, half of the people were saying Anton, didn't, Anton won it. Other half were saying Corey won it. But in terms of the man-to-man conflict, yeah, that was a clear W. Corey took that. That was a clear W.
And I disagree. So people are saying Corey won because he said say it again, and Anton didn't say it again. Okay, so Corey won like that? Then so be it. If that's how you see it, Corey won, then so be it. I disagree, because at the end of the day, rather than do the interview, do the sit down over a StreamYard or Zoom, Anton got on a plane, flew to where that person was, to unfamiliar territory, and sat down with them. And you could say he came with a bodyguard, but that's a whole nother discussion. I'll discuss that in the comment section if need be. Because again, and I'm speaking to the men watching this episode, not young men, or well, young men also, but I'm speaking to mature men when I say this, not boys. When you have a certain level of wealth, there is nothing wrong to travel with security. And Anton explained why he had security in the first place. It was just one person. It wasn't an army. All right. 50 Cent travels with security, but that doesn't mean 50 Cent is soft. It just means he has a lot to lose, and it just means he's wise. He's learned from the actions of others that didn't have security, and look at how their fate unfortunately played out. There's nothing wrong with if you have something to lose, you have wealth, and you could afford security. There's nothing wrong with getting security. Anyone that disagrees with me when it comes to that, I'm fine with it. I disagree with you, and I stand on that 10 toes down. If I could, if I had a mass amount of wealth, I would get security. Here's another thing, folks. This is why I said, those of you watching this episode, just keep in mind, the takeaway is, the older you get, you got to make better decisions, period. And all the decisions you make is on you, not on me. I'm sharing my thoughts, my opinion, my take, and you're welcome to disagree with me in the comment section respectfully, but it's always going to be your decision. All you can do is learn from this person, learn from their triumphs, learn from their mistakes. Because with everyone, regardless if they made mistakes, there's things to learn from the mistakes and things to learn from the triumphs. All right. In this case, all right. So Anton didn't say it again. So he's supposed to say it again, and then what? Then they fight. No. Okay. Let's say then they end up fighting. How was that a win? Because at the end of the day, what's going to end up happening is like, all right, so they fought. So let's just say they fought. Let's say let me give an example. Let's say Corey says, say it again, which he did say. So let's not say he said it, because he did say it. And then Antoine fights him. Antoine says it again. He punches Antoine. And let's just say Corey wins in the fight against Antoine. You're going to say, well, Antoine lost because he lost the fist fight. But then there's going to be some people that said, how did he lose when he stood his ground and said it again? I don't see, let's say, so if Corey was to fight him, if he said it again and Corey won the fight, I wouldn't look at Antoine as a loser. I would say, man, he had a lot of balls. He said it to his face again and was willing to throw down. Wins and losses, depending on what we're talking about, I think at times could be objective. All right. Because I think any man that's willing to stand his ground for what he believes in is a winner. Because in this life, you're going to take losses and you're going to take wins. That's another thing some of these people on social media lie about all the time. Some of them get on this camera and they speak as though they never lost in their life. All right? I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all. But let me get into the next clip.
Corey handled himself well, because I know Corey, right? Corey is, if any disrespect, he's about that action. You know what I'm saying? So, but when somebody's running a play, you can't just be about that action, because if they're running a play, you can actually be carrying out somebody else's agenda by standing on something that's connected to your principles.
100%. I 100% agree with this right here.
That was a great exhibition of a Texas sharpshooter fallacy last night on 5150, done by Antoine. Texas sharpshooter fallacy is when somebody poses an argument and they frame a narrative around the argument to make it seem like what they're saying is accurate. Last night was a cavalcade of illogical fallacies. You had two men who have opposing opinions, both have justified opinions to feel that whatever way they want to feel.
Sure.
Antoine being a conservative, pushing the narratives he has the right to do it. Corey being who Corey is, being a comedian with a comedic point of view. Yep. That's what a lot of people who are political don't understand about a comic. A comic's political point of view is personal. It's not political. So it's a personal point of view based on life experiences, and it's your interpretation of the world through your view.
Sure.
When you have somebody that's political, their worldview is really a microcosm of whatever political party they're subservient to. If I was on the show, once I sensed that Antoine was speaking in Texas sharpshooter fallacy, I would have ended the show or stopped the conversation.
But that's not really what caused the dust up. What caused the dust up was kissing of a white man's ass. Comment back was upping the ante of slurping down.
Let me just say something also. This gentleman, I think his name is Craig. Yes, it's Craig. Craig is also on that show, but wasn't there at the time Antoine was there. Craig is saying some good things, but Craig is also someone who, right after Antoine left, or just before Antoine left, I think he also speaks about it. He made it to the gate after the fact, after Antoine left. He was talking, he got on the show, he jumped on the microphone for a short period of time and was like, F Antoine. Now he's doing that because his co-host was humiliated on his show. And I guess, he's just showing allegiance to his co-host. But I don't even agree with that either. Those two men had a disagreement. It went where it went. Let them iron that out. This wasn't no one got jumped. No, there was no physical. No one got jumped physically by, a group of people. It was just two men hashing it out. You can get on there and just show support for your brother, but adding that extra stuff, I'm not with that. I know some people disagree with that, but that's fine. But he made some good points. But let me just play this.
You see, Corey's comment towards Anton resulted in a verbal response. Anton's comment towards Corey resulted in a threatening response. That back and forth, that simple back and forth was what instigated it to the next level. The person that gets emotional first loses, because now you are at the control of the person who got you emotional.
That's why Antoine started being very direct and started being very accusational, because he was trying to trigger.
Both of them got emotional, so they both lost. That's why I said you could see it as two wins and two losses. They both got emotional. I wouldn't care who got emotional first or not. How did it end up? It ended up as a mess. A complete mess.
Corey. And it worked for a bit, but Corey caught himself and handled himself like a G. I hope they can get back together and do
facts,
it more.
facts.
Because at the end of the day, what we need in our community is not niggas that want to be right. We need niggas that want to push an intellectual agenda that furthers the common.
And Craig seems to be intelligent. What we need is less of us using the N-word. How about that also? Because with intelligence means you have you know better. You have more insight than the next person. Why for the life of me is any one of these grown-ass men still using the N-word? Why is that so acceptable? Can anyone say that? And I don't care what you categorize yourself as. I don't care if you're FBA, Caribbean descent. Why is that still something that grown men are using? I myself I've used it in my past. I'll admit it. You're gonna hear it on my album when it drops. Shameless plug. I know it has nothing to do with this episode, but I'm making sure I say that now because I don't want anybody jumping in the comments if they hear it and say, "Oh, you used the N-word." That was long ago. But my point is, why are we still using it as grown men? Why? If we're so wise, Craig just used a SAT word just now that even impressed the gentleman from Mediocre Tutorials. I don't know his name. I know his channel. This gentleman here with the glasses. So Craig seems to have some level of intelligence. And I know intelligence isn't just vocabulary, but, not everybody uses that word that he used. And Antoine is a man who self-proclaimed will say that he's intelligent. Why are we still using the N-word? It's not necessary. It has no use. We listen, you get to a certain age, and if you're well read, you read a lot of books, you study in your off time. There's other ways to articulate yourself. I challenge these older men and these men that have more knowledge than I have to stop using the N-word. I think that looks ridiculous. Can we talk about that? We just brush over that. And let me just say something. Antoine, you're gonna do what you want to do as a grown man, but to me it seems wild to mention Christianity and then you're using all types of profanity. And I know on his own channel he tried to justify it, talking about I'm paraphrasing. He said in the scriptures there was a time where you basically had to get dirty and take it there. I don't remember seeing that in the scriptures. And if you're gonna say stuff like that, I need the receipts. I need the passages so I could read where it got dirty in the scriptures with language. But wise men don't need to use profanity. Just articulate yourself, get your point across. You should take it up. Take it up some levels with the way you disagree. You don't need to use the N-word. And anyone who's comfortable with that, let me know in the comments why you don't see a problem with it, especially at that age, using the N-word. Why are we using the N-word?
Consciousness of everybody black. I'm going to the studio. So I drive from Hollywood to Pasadena, nigga. I wasn't supposed to be there. Hopped the gate. When I pulled up, I blocked the entrance so he couldn't get out. I hopped the gate, but he was already gone. He was already out of there. So Corey handled himself well.
Listen, that's all I have queued up. I think part of the reason why we revert to using the N-word so much is because we go back to that which we know, which we're comfortable with. Which we in our communities that we used to use or still use. That's the real nature of it. So when you see the other side of Anton Daniels, he's I don't know if he's intentionally or this is who he really is. He's just showing you, listen, Yes, I'm successful, but I'm also that guy who grew up in Detroit. And whether he grew up in the suburbs or not, he's showing where, what he was exposed to. Because there's no reason why with his intelligence level he's using the N-word or using profanity. He should have rose above that already. And that's my opinion. All right, that's my opinion. I can't speak on Corey Holcomb in his choice of words, but this whole sit down was a loss. It was a loss. Win for traction to their channels, but a loss because you guys are grown. Listen, and I'm gonna end with this. And I'm a firm believer on this. This is why on my channel, I really try not to entertain any buffoonery in the comment section because that's not what I came here for. I know I discuss and react to topics that may involve buffoonery, but I try to conclude with mature analysis. I try to conclude with mature analysis. Listen. As grown men, we just have to make better decisions. If we know that it's not our strength to sit down with one another and hear different perspectives, just don't do it. Don't do it for the sake of I'm a content creator, I have to do it. You don't have to do anything. You could disagree from afar. If you know that's not something that's a strength of yours, if you know your knowledge, you're not that knowledgeable, and you're unable to listen, just don't do it. What's the rush? And we can be successful without the buffoonery. We just have to believe in ourselves and be patient. We don't have to. There's other channels out there to show that. Joe Rogan, and I have to go to Joe Rogan. You might say, oh, Joe Rogan's a white man. Listen, forget about race for right now, all right? I would say forget about race all the time, but obviously we live in a world where the world doesn't forget about race, and I understand that. But for the sake of this episode, forget about race. Joe Rogan is he's successful at what he does. But just notice this. Joe Rogan never sits on his show and with his guests and speak to them as if he knows everything. He doesn't cut them off necessarily. He doesn't challenge them. He just asks questions. And there's another show that I again failed to remember. This is my second time failing. The first time was on the original episode I recorded. But sticking with Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan sits there and he's there to learn. Now, first of all, it would never be a fight because if you really know, Joe Rogan has a background in martial arts. I believe he's a black belt and he's a badass at it too. Right? So there's no need for a fight. And that's another thing too. Those that really could fight and kick ass, they're not out there. The real ones, if you know about martial arts, you were never supposed to learn martial arts or any fighting skill to go out there and just beat people's asses, because then that would make you a bully. The people that are well trained in fighting usually stay quiet and try to avoid fighting. That's the lessons and the teachings behind hand-to-hand combat. The pure teachings. I don't know about anything else. The pure teachings, you learn it for self-defense reasons, but you're not supposed to be going out there being a bully. All right? But I don't want to digress. Notice with Joe Rogan, he sits on his podcast, his very extremely successful podcast, top tier podcast, and he's there to hear from somebody, learn from somebody. He's not there to necessarily disagree. Now, if he disagrees, he might say something about it and say, well, but if they make a logical point, he's willing to listen. Gentlemen, if you are in this space, if you plan to be in this space, and if you plan to sit down with other people, it's okay to humble yourself and just listen. Interject if you will, but it's okay to have a guest on that is more knowledgeable than you, and so on and so forth. If you're more knowledgeable than them, it's okay to share your wisdom. I don't know why we make that so difficult. Some of us let our egos get the best of us, and neither one of them should have disrespected each other. They should never use disrespectful words towards each other. Corey Holcomb, maybe for lack of a better way of expressing himself, told that man, "You kiss white men's ass." He didn't need to say that. There's always another way to say the same thing, but in a respectful way. What's your thoughts on this? That's my thoughts on all of this. As always, I appreciate everyone for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed, on your way out, just hit that subscribe button. It costs you nothing. Hit the like button. Tell a friend to tell a friend. I drop episodes daily at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And as always, stay honorable.